Welcome to Doors to Hope and Healing, an inside look at the many facets of work that is happening at the Department of Children and Families, between our staff, the families we serve, and our community partners. My name is Jacqueline Ford. I have had the honor of working for the department for almost 30 years. And although I may be familiar with many of the topics we bring to you, I have invited experts in those fields to help us dispel the myths and misconceptions that can often be barriers to our work. Join us as we open our doors and invite you to have a seat at our table. Tanya and Lisa, thank you so much for being on the set of Doors to Hope and Healing. With this month being Child Abuse Awareness Month and Animal Cruelty Awareness Month, it was a great time for us to come together in a collaborative way and share with our viewers the work that we're doing together to help prevent child abuse and animal cruelty in the state of Connecticut. So it's a pleasure to have you both on the show. Tanya, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Yep, I'm a state animal control officer for the Department of Agriculture for Connecticut. We are charged with overseeing a lot of situations. We do a lot of large animal abuse cases, neglect cases, and then we also do the routine stuff like making sure that the pet shops and the commercial kennels and the grooming facilities are all regulated and following all of the regulations in Connecticut. Mm-hmm. So we do all those inspections as well.
It's a pretty big job. And Lisa, can you tell us about yourself?
I'm excited to be here, so thank you for having me. I'm Lisa Daymonde. I'm the Caroline Director at DCF. I am responsible for it's a 24/7 operation, responsible for, it's the front door, let me put it that way. It's the front door of DCF. It is where all the abuse and neglect phone calls come in, and we assess and determine whether or not we're accepting a report and assigning it to the area office for investigation.
Mm-hmm. So anyone who's watching who has a suspicion of child abuse or neglect, they call this number. Do you want to share the number with our viewers?
Absolutely. The number is 800-842-2288, and that is it's available 24/7. We never close, we never sleep. Yeah. We are always available.
Yeah, and just trying to keep every child and family safe in Connecticut. So let's talk to you, Tanya, a little bit about. Can you share with our viewers the link between child abuse and animal abuse? And I think that there's just mounting evidence that talks about that link.
Yeah, for sure. Like as we start looking at these things even deeper, like it certainly comes out even more. Statistically, 70 to 80% of all serial killers started out abusing animals at some point in their life, so it kind of like develops into something more. So they've really found that if you see somebody maybe abusing animals, there's a good chance that they may be abusing a child or their domestic partner or something like that. So it becomes a pretty big, serious process.
It's something that we shouldn't ignore and definitely explore further. I know that Phil Arcove, who is a national expert, he talked about. I'm just looking at my notes here, and I quote him. He says that in the field work and the coordination, the link evidence is that it's critically important that animal cruelty be taken seriously by law enforcement and our society at large for the sake of not only animals but humans, because of the interchange between them. And I know that Phil does a lot of work on educating law enforcement and educating school teachers, because without that education of knowing that there's that correlation, you're working in silos. You're looking at the animal piece or you're looking at the child piece, but there's clearly a correlation between the two. Lisa, can you talk to us about cross-reporting and what DCF's responsibility is in the cross-reporting?
Sure. There was a law that was implemented in 2011 requiring that the Department of Children and Families, along with state municipal and regional animal control officers, when they report to the Department of Agriculture, when they suspect that an animal has been neglected, harmed, or there's been cruelty to that animal. Similarly, the Department of Agriculture will file or send a report to us every time that they receive a report of suspected animal cruelty, harm, or abuse to the Department of Children and Families. So it's back and forth, right? And when they send us those reports, we will assess and determine if we should be commencing an investigation in order to assess child safety. And the collaboration is key with both of our agencies. It really is important that we collaborate. It's about making sure that we're assessing the safety of children, of animals, and the families.
Yeah, it is. And in 2011, when that law was passed, it made it much easier for a social worker at DCF to know what to do. I know, having been with the agency for almost 30 years and an avid animal lover and protector of animals and children, finding animals that weren't being treated kindly in a home that you were working with the family on and not being able to counsel them to take care of their animal properly, you didn't know what to do with that information or who to call or how to really resolve that. So having this law implemented in a process and a protocol makes things just so much easier for everyone that's involved. So Tanya, with regards to your department, what is your responsibility? And I speak for you and Charles and the ACOs that are in the communities when it comes to cross-reporting laws.
So our department pretty much acts like a hub. So the local animal control officers will send their suspect animal abuse forms to us, and then our department will then forward them to DCF. And in return, DCF sends it to our department, and then we spread it out into the local agencies that they need to go. And then the local animal control officers will go out to the houses and check the animals to make sure that everything's going well there. So we kind of are like I said, just a hub, and we spread out the information and then accumulate the information as well. So if they need assistance, we certainly will help them out, but the local officers are the ones that go out and do those follow-ups from what we get from DCF.
So if one of our viewers is watching and they know of a situation that involves animal abuse or neglect and they just don't know who to call or what to do, how would you advise them?
My first option is if you want to call the police department of your local town, ask to talk to an animal control officer. They usually transfer you. That's usually the easiest way because the locals really are the first person and the fastest to respond. And then obviously if there's more needed, then the police are right there and they can help out as well. If you can't or you don't know how to contact your local animal control officer, you can certainly call our department, and then we can assist with facilitating the information to get to where it needs to go, or one of us can go out as well and check out the situation. We generally will go with a local, if it's something that we got reported to but they didn't, we could sometimes go with them and just make sure everything's okay.
So when somebody does make that report and that animal control officer or someone from your state office makes a visit and does an assessment of that allegation, is that when that form is generated and sent to DCF?
Yeah, so the form is filled out regardless of what the investigation actually portrays. So say somebody said, I think this dog's been abused, we immediately have to fill out that form, whether we've even seen the dog or not, then we can go out. And if we find, okay, it's not really abused, it's just maybe a skittish dog, like that form still goes to DCF regardless, because it's not saying that the dog was abused, it's saying that somebody suspected that it was abused. And that, just prompts DCF to do their job as well and follow up with the family.
Similar to DCF and getting, a mandated reporter or any member of the community who initiates a report, it can often be just on suspicion.
Yes, it's a reasonable cause to suspect or believe. It's a suspicion that a child is being abused, that they should make a report to DCF at that 800 number that I described earlier.
And then let the professionals make that assessment.
And let us decide that, yes.
So Tanya, who supervises the animal control officers? Because I know that, many towns, cities, they have animal control officers, and I think that they all have different roles and responsibilities. Can you speak to us about that?
Yeah, of course. So every town is responsible to have some sort of an animal control entity. Sometimes they'll buddy up with the town next to them and have 1 or 2 officers for a certain number of towns. But the towns themselves are supervising their own animal control. So most of the animal control are under police departments, but there are in some smaller towns where they're straight under the town manager or the town first selectman or the mayor, whichever it has. So then they would just always report to them. So a lot of people think that state animal control officers supervise the locals, but that isn't. I mean, we help them and we assist them and we counsel them, but we're not their supervisors. So they would go to either the police department or to the head of the town.
And I also understand that our animal control officers aren't mandated reporters.
That is correct, but we can voluntarily report.
Yes, and as part of many of our job responsibilities, the expectation to report is there. Yeah. I know that I maintain a log of all of the reports that come in from Charles and are sent to the Caroline or hotline. I'm dating myself with
Caroline.
The 2 different Caroline. So if we think about a case, and I know that we can't say names and we can't speak of any particular case of a child or an animal, but Tanya, can you speak to us about that textbook example of a collaboration between the Department of Children and Families and the Department of Agriculture that would end in a happy resolve?
Sure. So I'll pretend that I'm a local animal control officer because they usually get these first calls. So we'll pretend I got a call that says there's an injured dog in the backyard. It doesn't look healthy. Can you check it out? So we'll go out, do a well-being check. And as I go there, we always have to make contact with the homeowner, the owner of the animal. So as I'm knocking on this door, somebody answers the door and I can see in the yard that there's, kids' toys, there's, things outside that you just know there's a kid that lives there. So when the gentleman opens the door, I can see inside the house, it's just very unclean looking. Obviously I don't go into the home, he comes outside, but you can just see a lot of clutter, things in the window that is concerning. And so then I ask to see the dog. So he takes me into the backyard, and the backyard is very unclean. The dog certainly looks unhealthy. And then at that point, I think, all right, well, if there's a child in a home where this dog is sickly and dirty and potentially injured, what's the inside of that home really look like? So then I fill out my report, which goes to DCF, triggers them to at least look into it, find out whether it's something that they need to find out. So they say, oh yes, there's a child there, we'll go check it out, and they find out that child is living in complete misery and filth, and then they're able to fix the situation for the child. If not remove them, at least fix what they have there and work with the family to make that better.
That assessment. And Lisa, can you speak about what a situation may involve with an investigator going out and to investigate a suspicion of abuse or neglect, and then seeing an animal that they're concerned about?
Absolutely. So the area office would get assigned the report that would come in. They would go out to the home, they would assess the situation. They would meet with the family, talk with the child, talk with the parents, get a look of the entire area, house, and the living conditions and things like that. If they find additional concerns for care of the animal, we will then subsequently file another report with the Department of Agriculture to let them know that we have additional concerns of neglect for this animal. So it's that mutual, collaborative back and forth to assure safety of kids, animals, and families and their well-being.
And that collaboration that we're speaking of today, after that report is initiated on our end, or you initiate a report to us, is there communication between the 2 state agencies or the 2 assigned workers to communicate what's happening?
There should always be communication and collaboration with what's happening, so that together you can help the family situation, help the animal situation, and the child's situation to improve. It's all about assessing safety and well-being and keeping kids safe, basically.
Absolutely. And any opportunity that we can use to, enlighten our public about, our roles and responsibilities, the Department of Agriculture's roles and responsibilities, and keeping our children and animals safe. Lisa, can you talk to us about some statistics about the cases that you're receiving?
Absolutely. We average about 11 per month from the Department of Agriculture. That's what I looked at, and that's sort of the way it came out. Last year, we received 134 reports from the Department of Agriculture. Of those, 20 of those cases were open at the time. And 36 of those had prior DCF history, and 8 of them required a new report created by the Caroline to assess the situation of the children.
So walk us through, so when Charles sends over a report,
Yes.
and he sends it to the Commissioner's office, to you, I'm also included on that as well. What do you do with that report?
Sure. We receive the report, we review the report, and when we're reviewing the report, we're also looking at our link or our computer system to determine if we have an open case, do we have prior history with the owner, because we typically get on the report the name of the owner and the allegations that are presented. About cruelty or harm to the animal. Also, if in the report it talks about a child, that's what we're trying to figure out. Are there kids in the home? The Department of Agriculture doesn't always know that, right? So it is our responsibility to, once we get the report, we go in our system and we look to see. After we've looked to see, we look at the report and do we have enough that meets our statutory definition of abuse and neglect to accept a report? Do we have to accept a report to go out and assess the safety of the child? If we have to, then we commence a report and we send it to the area office for investigation. On the flip side, if we see that there isn't enough information in the report, but there's concern and we see the case is open, we will send that to the local area office so that they can begin their collaborative relationship and meet with and talk with the Department of Agriculture staff that are assigned to that report. It's all in an effort to assess safety and work with one another for the safety and the well-being of the family and the kids.
And I think that that collaborative effort that we all spoke about on our show today is imperative, but also just that education piece, because I know that in one of the cases that I was involved with, a child had gone down to her guidance counselor, and in the natural course of their conversation, she had said that her family pet, the cat, the night before had been killed by the mother's boyfriend. And a report was generated to the Department of Agriculture, but not to DCF. And it's important for us to educate the community on the traumatic emotional abuse that that child experienced by witnessing her family pet be killed. And that's the piece I think that is so important for us to share with our community, that we have to look further. We have to look to say, even though that child disclosed and that child seems to be in a good place, how did that experience of what they witnessed affect them? So, back years ago, and everything is years ago now because we had such a dramatic pause with COVID, we had implemented a survey to staff to say, how many of our DCF staff know what to do when it comes to a suspicion of an animal being abused in a case that they have open. And we found an overwhelming majority of our staff didn't know but wanted to know. So in February of 2021, we implemented internally a mandatory training for our staff that they have to go through a training on this collaboration work that we're doing, as well as what to do when they suspect. And this was developed through the Pause for Kids program that the department has, and infographics were shared with our staff so that they would go in and they would know what to ask and what to look for. So although everything happens slowly and we transition, I think that we have, as a state agency of child welfare and a state agency for animal protection, we're doing such great work together. So this month, being an awareness month, is the perfect opportunity to let everyone know that we're working together and not in silos like we used to. And not to say we did so because we wanted to years ago and work in those silos. It was, I don't think we really understood the importance of us collaborating, and now we do. So thank you both so much for being on the show today, and hope to have you back as we develop our partnerships together.
Thank you so
Thank
much
you so much
me.
for having us.
So thank you for watching Doors to Hope and Healing, and now stay tuned for a short video. Thank you.
With it hope, with a family that stepped in to care for me when they knew that I needed it most. They've helped me through struggles with kindness and love, and I no longer feel so alone. But deep down I know there are others like me who could use the love I've been shown. You can change the world for kids like me who need to feel whole. A helping hand to cross the road that's been harder than it has been for most. All it takes is lots of love and a safe place to call home. Will you be a foster family? I can imagine everything he's been through, the sadness, the fear and unknown. When I looked in his eyes, somehow I just knew that I had to give him a home. The simple things so many kids are denied. As I thought about it, I cried. And I knew in that moment I had the strength to the occasion I would rise. I could change the world for a kid like him who needs to feel whole. A helping hand to cross a road that's been harder than it has been for most. All it takes is lots of love and a safe place to call home. We will be a foster family. These children come from many different places, from different lives with different situations. They need our help just for a time, and we can help rebuild their lives if we just try.
conditioning, wall-to-wall carpet, and tiled floors. Both heat and hot water are included. Riverview also offers a wide range of activity rooms that include a billiard parlor and a spacious community room. It is handicap accessible with safe, secure parking for tenants and ample off-street parking for visitors. 860-940-6757 or riverviewbristol.com.